Trump doubles down on his action against the Chinese application TikTok by saying the U.S. Treasury should take a cut from TikTok's potential sale to an American firm. Is TikTok discovering the heavy cost of succeeding in the U.S. market? And America's top disease expert Dr. Fauci and Dr. Burke says the U.S. is entering a new difficult phase in the pandemic. Is their warning getting drowned out by non-expert voices? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Lifen. After threatening to ban the popular application TikTok, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday that U.S. Treasury Department should collect a very substantial portion of TikTok's sale to an American firm. TikTok says it has received more scrutiny than others due to the company's Chinese origin. The Trump administration has again cited national security concerns as grounds for pushing the ban. He also set a September 15th deadline for either shutdown or sale. Is this a breach of capitalist principles? Can national security be used to justify such moves? Joining me for the discussion from New York is Schober, a cybersecurity expert in Beijing, Professor Huang Jing at the Beijing Language and Culture University, and in Shanghai over the phone, Professor Zhang Lifen at the School of Journalism at Fudan University. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. So, President Trump on Monday suggested that a very substantial portion of the potential sale of TikTok should go to the Treasury of the United States. Let's take a listen to this.
It's a great asset, but it's not a great asset in the United States unless they have the approval of the United States. So it'll close down on September 15th unless Microsoft or somebody else is able to buy it and work out a deal, an appropriate deal, so the Treasury of the, really the Treasury, I guess you would say, of the United States gets a lot of money, a lot of money.
So, Professor Huang, let me go to you. Help us understand the substantial amount going to the U.S. Treasury, and he's talking about a lot of money here. Exactly, what is the legal basis of all of this that's going on here?
Frankly, that's beyond me, because I'm a little bit appalled by President Donald Trump's remarks that the profit or the money made through buying or selling TikTok will go to the treasury. I don't know what the legal base is that, because whatever the business going on between two businesses, even it's American business, that's not the money of the United States. And if they want to pay United States, I can pay through taxes or something like that. I have no idea how that kind of money can be directly paid to the treasury, and I don't get it. I'm appalled by this. It's beyond me.
Professor Zhang Lifen, do you have any answer to this question, or is it the usual wasteful exercise to try to understand the legal basis of President Trump's words?
I think think about President Trump's former background as a property tycoon. I think I'm not that surprised that he seems to be suggesting that I think he run the Treasury or run the country like running a real estate. I think he wants to charge a hefty commissioning for this and a particular transaction. And apparently he has been backpedaling in the past week. The first by suggesting banning TikTok altogether from the U.S. operation, and then suggesting a U.S. company should actually buy up. And for me, I think, as Professor Huang said, I think totally beyond me. But he seems to be developing a pattern of running the American presidency, not only by twittering, but also seem like a super CEO. I think I have never experienced any American president of the meddling so specifically in the individual affairs of a company.
Okay, so the signal, I'm sorry, the signal is not very stable, but I get the gist of your idea. Basically, he has been trying to run the country like the CEO trying to run a company. Mr. Schober, is that where the problem is? Because a country is not a company. I mean, a CEO can pretty much decide on a day-to-day basis the most important things like that, but on these issues, especially when it has to do with the legal rights of a foreign company of such big scale, there must be something to justify his move. You know, now he's talking about giving money to the U.S. Treasury. Is there any justification to this or the other decisions he has been floating out there? Is it justifiable at all?
Not necessarily justifiable, but again, understanding how Mr. Trump works, I think, is probably important. And to the point of what colleagues mentioned, he is a good business person. He knows how to negotiate. I've met him personally. I've talked to him. He is a brilliant business person. You got to give him that. However, running a country is very different than running a business. I think these are more what I call kind of an idle threat, and it really is setting a precedent for future companies and future technology. When these things come up and there's a little bit of deal on the table, people will kind of hesitate a little bit, and companies will hesitate and say, hey, this guy is serious. He's going to push weight back. There's going to be some associated cost to this. So part of this is the way he negotiates, throws out these little idle threats, people react to it, and then he may change his tune a day later or a week later. And in this case, it went from a ban to acquiring it maybe by Microsoft or another company.
Yeah, but Mr. Schober, what do you think is driving Mr. Trump's decision here? Is it political? Is it ideological? Is it about business, personal business interest? Is it about decoupling with China? What do you think?
Yes, on all fronts. Think about it. This is election year. He has to make a strong stance and make a specific forwarding movement from his political career. He also has a Trump empire, an organization that could benefit or could get hurt by based upon all these things. Then there's national security interest. I think that's a little bit lower on the ladder in this particular case, because really all apps on our smartphone are very similar. They reach out to the network, they send information. That's true of TikTok here too, and there's 100 million plus users of TikTok right now in the U.S. So security, national security interest, it's a stretch, but it could be argued that, hey, China could now have access to these 100+ million users and growing.
Well, let's take a listen to an earlier statement by TikTok CEO Kevin Mayer, who called for fair competition and transparency. He said that the entire industry has received scrutiny, and rightly so, yet we have received even more scrutiny due to the company's Chinese origins. Without TikTok, competition would dry up, and so too we're an outlet for America's creative energy. We are not political. We do not accept political advertising and have no agenda. Professor Huang, yeah, what do you think of the stretch of national security concern, the legitimacy of that, versus the kind of fair play, the kind of transparency and certainty that has to be there for companies to compete in the market economy?
Yes, national security could be an issue here, and so if that's the case, the legitimacy is there. But as we know that TikTok has already cut all its connection with China, even move its server or will move its server to United States. In other words, technically speaking, it's an American company altogether, even though it's originated from China. So if that's the case, in other words, if TikTok opens its books, be transparent, let United States government look into all the data it could collect and run it as American company, follow the rules and laws of United States, then the issue of national security is not very convincing here. To me, I agree with my colleague's statement just now. It's in a large part, in my view, it's a campaign gimmick. In other words, President Donald Trump wants to use this to maybe to gain something in his election campaign, which is not really carrying any momentum right now. Another reason, of course, maybe there's some issue as he's a businessman. Maybe he's saying this will help him to promote American business, because TikTok does have a very strong and competition in the United States. Yeah. But whatever reason it could be, doing things like this is, number one, against the very basic principles of market economy, number one. Number two, it violates actually the very basic principles and norms and laws that American firms or U.S. government always try to say that United States is example for the world. Last but not the least, of course, this arbitrary decision made by Donald Trump himself has created a great uncertainty and even panic among the business. I don't think that's a very good example to do a business like this, because what really damage, in my view, in the long term, is a brand name of Americanism.
Mr. Schober, your reaction to the several points that Professor Huang had just made?
Yeah, points are very well placed, and I agree for the most part. But do keep in mind, too, if you look at the history, the last number of years especially, there's been extreme tension, and it comes up again and again with China spying on or surveilling many U.S. companies. And I think a lot of that's the underlying or underpinning reason that one could argue. We obviously don't have all the facts. TikTok is being investigated. It actually started last year as far as a national security threat. There should be a report forthcoming that should be available to the public, which I think we would all appreciate to see if there is any specifics there as far as a threat. But I think, again, looking at history, there has been numerous cases, especially of cyber espionage, that have been pointed to China. Some argued, some they say are factual. Depends on which side you argue it from, but that's why there, I think, is so much suspicion, and that will continue to happen, I think. So we have to be understanding of that as well. There's more than just the political side, the business side, but also a pattern of history of accusations of cyber spying.
So basically you're talking about this atmosphere which would harbor, which would tolerate even the action by this administration, which would look inconceivable under normal circumstances. So Professor Huang, how do you react to that? And given this atmosphere, is there any way that such concerns could be addressed by actors, by players on both sides? Or, you know, given the political atmosphere, do you think that it is unfortunate, but Chinese companies who might be successful in the United States would have to face only two fates, be banned or be forced to be sold?
Yeah, as we always say that if we know we're in a big hole, the first thing we need to do is stop digging. And I understand that cyber espionage is a very serious concern, is a very serious issue too in the United States. But at this moment, even though history shows that there are some cases, serious cases against China regarding cyber espionage, but so far we have not found any evidence about TikTok, company like TikTok, doing any cyber espionage. Neither there are any evidence that the TikTok has stolen any technology from American companies. Just a few days ago in the Congress hearing, we see that among the four top CEOs of top IT industry, Apple and Google and I think another one is
Amazon.
Amazon. All the three said they don't have any evidence or first-hand knowledge that Chinese company has stolen the U.S. Only the Facebook CEO said so, said he's well documented. But my view is this: we don't have any well documented evidence against TikTok. In that regard, cyber espionage or any threat to national security right now is just an allegation. We always say that under the rule of law, you are innocent until proven guilty. So before TikTok is even proven guilty, that United States President already ordered to ban the TikTok or force sale. I think that is very much an example of against Americanism.
Finally, Professor Zhang Lifen is again available on the line. I want to hear Professor Zhang Lifen's viewpoint here. How do you balance the legitimate concern about national security versus the legitimate interests of companies to compete and to thrive and to survive in a market where they do everything they can to respect the local laws, rules, regulations, bringing their server, domestically, hiring local staff, and doing all they can to be clean, and yet it seems that they, as Professor Huang said, they are deemed guilty before they could prove that they're innocent.
I think let's remind us. I think American as a great nation, I think built up its fortune with the free spirit of enterprise and a liberal market philosophy. I think it is not the first time national security concern has been raised. I think we have heard that word many times. Americans have a very sophisticated law and regulation system. I think please ask the lawmakers and the relevant authorities to investigate the case about TikTok. I think it is unreasonable, and also it is detrimental to the American interest for an American president to behave in this way, meddling specifically from one company to the other. I don't think that this particular approach serves American interest.
Okay.
I don't think it is setting a good example.
Yeah, all right. Points taken. Many thanks to my guests, Scott Schober, Professor Huang, Jing, and Professor Zhang Lifen, joining us from different parts of the world.